right, thank you. Appreciate it. Glad you guys are here to join us. This is, if you don't know, this is our first live podcast that we've ever done. So we're excited about that. Hopefully we're going to do more in 2020. But typically we're in the Alumni Lounge and we're just having a conversation with, as Mark said, alumni, some staff, current players, coaches, and then that's why. So we wanted to do some live podcasting because we think it's kind of a cool experience to have you here and to be able to have you guys join in the conversation. So we'll do that. But just to let you know, how many here have actually heard the podcast? Okay, we got a few subscribers here. Okay, so if you haven't, I've got some cards up here that I'll give out afterwards that you can just, it'll show you how to subscribe. And you can watch it on YouTube, you can hear it on Spotify, and you can also go on Apple Music. So, and then it's also on our website. So I have some information about that if you're interested in listening. But just wanted to say thanks for coming, and I wanted to introduce our guest. So you might not know, Mark said that we're going to have Eddie Pérez here. Mark was talking about just a little bit about this podcast has been around for a year. This is actually going to be our 47th episode. So we have quite a few guys. I mean, we have Hall of Famers, Hank Aaron, Tom Glavine, John Smoltz. We've had Alex Anthopoulos on a couple times, Brian Snitker. We have a whole library of conversations that we've had with guys. So you would love it. And there's also some front office staff that you may not know, like Katie Hearn is one of the ladies that works in guest services who was blind, went blind about 3 years ago, I believe. Just a great story about her perseverance and what she's done. So we have her on the podcast. But anyway, let me introduce Eddie. So Eddie's from Venezuela, if you don't know. Eddie has been married. I think he's been married as long, and we're going to ask him this, but I think he's been married as long as I have because we played in the minor leagues together. So I think he's been married close to 30 years, has 2 kids, and had an 11-year career with the Braves, with the Brewers and the Indians. We won't talk about that. A little bit with them. His first hit was a home run. In 1995 when he got called up. He was on the World Series team in 95. He was on the World Series team in 96. He was on the World Series team in 99. And he was the NLCS MVP in 1999. So please welcome Eddie Pérez. Thank you. All right. All right. Well, glad you're here, buddy.
Let me clear something up. 20 years.
Oh, 20 years married. Okay. Well, so maybe you and Marisol were dating when I met you.
Well, no, we were married. We were in Durham. That was 20 some years ago.
I guess I was married before that, so maybe.
Well, let me tell you a quick story. When we turned 25, I told my wife, it feels like 5 minutes under the water.
Please cut that from the video. So, hey, it's been a while. We've known each other a long time. I met Eddie in 1991. We were in Durham Bulls, and there were 13 guys off that team that made it to the big leagues. That's pretty amazing for an A-ball team. If you go back and look at the history of Class A teams, that doesn't happen very often. But you think about Pedro Borbon, David Need, you, me, Javi. We had, Mike Kelly played center field. Ed Gianelva was at second base. Coates. So we had a bunch of guys.
Chipper Jones was there late. No?
Yeah, he may have come up later. But 91, and actually Grady Little was our manager. So pretty neat team that we had there. And that team went up to AA the next year, and we set a record for wins in the Southern League. And then a lot of those guys end up on the World Series team in 1995. So a couple things. You and I are going to have a conversation a little bit about kind of your career and what you're doing now. And then we'll let the audience ask a few questions here at the end, okay?
Perfect.
So one of the things I wanted to start with is that if you guys didn't know this, but in 2014, Eddie became a naturalized citizen along with his wife and daughter. And I thought that. What a great thing. We don't hear a lot of that. A lot of the players that come over here, that's just not, I don't think that's on their radar. But I just kind of wanted you to share why you felt that was important and kind of what, how exciting that moment was when you actually, because I think it happened at Turner Field, right?
It happens in the middle of the season, and it was funny because you helped me out a lot. Try to go through the whole thing, and why I did it because I came here when I was 16 years old, and I came here by myself, and I left all my family back home, and we were living okay back home then. We used to live in oil companies, and I would say 40% of the people where I live were Americans. They went there and worked there, and when I decided to sign baseball, my brothers, my mom, like, what are you doing? Why are you going to another country? We okay here. Guess what? They're all living in my house now, right here in Duluth, Georgia. But it was tough. It was tough for me. But when I think I own this country, everything I got. Atlanta is my. I'm not gonna say it's my second. It's my number one house. I left when I was 16 years old. I still bought my house in Duluth, Georgia, in '98, and I still live in the same house. I love Atlanta. I love the United States, and I think doing that was part of doing the right thing here for this country. And it was funny. I told you that you helped me, but we were doing fancy camp that year, and I took off one day to do some of my interviews for the citizenship, and it was funny because the judge was there in fancy camp. So when I came back, he said, "Hey, can I help you in something?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, I'm the judge." Yes. I need to set up the day. I don't want to miss any day in the season to do the interviews. And he go, "I got it." So he did the whole thing. All he asked was he wants to be on TV. So the crew went to his court, and we did all the thing. And then I find out he was one of my neighborhood. They live in the same neighborhood we live. So nice guy. He's a judge. He retired this year. He was still together, and he's, like I say, helped.
He's one of my church members.
Yeah, very nice guy. Well, he's very tough, but to be a judge.
Well, that's great. That's very commendable. And I'm not surprised just because I've known you for a long time, and you always want to do the right thing. And I think that's just something that takes a lot of effort. That's not easy to do. So
it was easier then. Now it's very tough to do. And I don't think I think I wait too long to do it. But took some times and now it's very hard. I'm glad I did it a long time ago, but I didn't do it because I think it was the right thing to do, and I know I think I'm gonna die here. So,
all right. Well, let's talk a little bit about what's going on. You have a very unique perspective, and I feel like that I do too as well because we played here in the minor leagues with the Atlanta Braves. We were both in the big leagues with the Braves, and now we're both in the front office. But you have a little bit more experience because you not only coached in the minor leagues, and you were signed originally by the Braves,
yeah.
and so you played. And a lot of people don't realize this. Eddie played 8 years in the minor leagues, and that is usually an average career in the minor leagues. But guys are going up and down a lot, from AAA. That's why it seems like a long time. You wouldn't know that with guys like Acuna and Albies and who get rushed to the big leagues because they're so talented. But most of the guys grinded out through the minor leagues. Eddie was one of those guys. We happened to meet early on, but he probably already spent 4 years in the minor leagues by the time we had met each other. And so he then, after his playing days, he played 11 years, and then he went back as a coach in the minor leagues, and then Bobby signed him, and he coached a long time at the big league level, and then he started working for us from the front office. So with all that experience, obviously, if I was running the Atlanta Braves, if I was Alex Anthopoulos or Terry McGurk, I would want somebody with all your experience here. But what have you learned from that you are able to help with? Well, I guess, first of all, tell us what your role is now. And I know that that always changes from year to year, but what have you been doing the last few years in the front office?
My title is a special advisor to the GM, but I do everything. I came to the big league for a month and coached for a month. Our pitching coach got some problems, so he had to go home. So I took over the bullpen coach, and I spent 1 month. And everybody's like, "Hey, you're back." I said, "No, only for a month." Well, actually, it was for a week, but he would keep calling me and say, "I gotta stay 1 more week, and I gotta stay 1 more week." So I stayed for a whole month, and then I went down, and our catcher instructor got hurt too, so I have to take over him. So I was busy. I don't know what my title is now. So I'm doing all kind of stuff, and now I like to work with the kids, and I'm working with the catchers right now in the minor league, and believe me, you see a lot of good guys in the big leagues, but it's more coming. And I think for me, our holes is catchers, but it's a good one coming. So it will take a couple of years to get here, and they're going to be really good, really good. So that's what I'm doing right now, working with the catchers most of the time. But I'm free to work with pitchers and outfielders and all that stuff. Terry Pendleton and me, we got the same title, so we're doing all the kind of stuff in the minor league, which is unbelievable. In the beginning, it was hard. It was hard for me because I spent 33 years in the big leagues, and getting this job was like, oh no, it's not good for me. I want to be on the field, but being down there, work with the kids, and telling me story about the big leagues, and they're like, every time you talk, you can see in their eyes they're listening. And I love that. I like that, and I like that job. It's the dream job, I think, for every coach. I'm not done yet. I think I got more to go in the big leagues. I think I'm going to get my chances to be coaching again, or maybe something else. And but I wait for my chance. And while I'm waiting, I want to learn everything. It's a new era right now about baseball. It's about numbers now. So I'm learning about numbers and all that stuff because I want to learn. I want to know. I want to cover everything when I get in the big leagues again.
Well, I remember having that conversation when you were transitioning from on the field to off the field, and you were a little hesitant, like most of us are. You didn't really have a big transition from player because you went right into the minor leagues only for a year as a coach, and then you went right to the big leagues. So you really kind of delayed the transition that I see with a lot of alumni. Of course, I'm the director of alumni relations, and I deal with many alumni who are transitioning from a player to maybe dad or businessman or something like that. And some of the guys you may know right now: Chris Medlin, Peter Moylan, Kelly Johnson, Dan Ugla. Those guys are now Brian McCann. Those guys are all making the transition. So I talk with them a lot about what's going to happen next. And so for a guy like Eddie, who went from player right into coach, you kind of delay that transition, and there's some adjustments, but there wasn't much of a lull. So, and I know with all your experience, and I can understand why the organization just gobbled you up and said, "Hey, you got to come work with us because you got a lot to offer." So you see a lot of young men that were in the position that you were, 16, coming over here to America, playing in a new place and trying to transition. I would imagine that is it's great for you to be able to talk to them and to help them because I think you have a lot to say. So that takes me to a question I have because you've got a son, a young son that's already been drafted once, and Andres plays up at UNG. He's a great athlete, catcher, following his dad's footsteps. So at his age, you have already played for 2 years, 3 years in the minor leagues. So what kind of advice do you give him now, knowing that you basically could be talking to a 17, 18-year-old Eddie Pérez back in the day? I know he's lived a different life than you.
Yes, very different.
But what are the things that you talk to him about to prepare him?
Well, he's smart. He's very smart. He's smart like mom, like his mom. He'd be like me. He'd be genius. No, but you know what? I don't talk to him too much. I always watch, and for what I see, that's when I say, don't do that or do that. But I always tell him to work hard, and be prepared. Be prepared. Try to learn every game. Because like you said, I spent 8 years in the minor league, and I thought my first year when I was 17, I thought I was ready for the big leagues, But I spent 8 years. In those 8 years, remember, I didn't play every day. I was a backup in the minor league too. I was backup in the big league, but I was backup in the minor league. I always back up Javi Lopez. We have so many number one drafts, so I have to be a backup catcher for them. But I want to learn every game. I learn every game. And one of my managers, Grady Little, told me that long time ago, you learn every game. And I try to learn something every game. And that's what I told my son. You got to learn something every day. Every day you have to, even if you don't play, you have to learn something. And because when your chance is coming, you have to be ready. That's the only thing I tell them. And try to be honest, of course, and try to know everybody. Try to know everybody because you never know who you're going to need in your career. It's like right now. I'm doing this, but I'm receiving a lot of phone calls from a lot of ex-friends or ex-players that I play with, like David Ross last week. He asked me what I'm doing. I said, I'm with the Brave. I said, I would love to have you up here. I said, it's too cold in Chicago. I don't like Chicago. So, but, you know a lot of people. That's something that I think to tell my son to, and make sure you know everybody, make sure you learn, make sure you be prepared for every game you're going to play.
Well, some of you have been around Eddie because I recognize some fantasy campers here in the audience, so you know that Eddie's very personable. But what you maybe remember as a player, I remember as a pitcher because he caught me, not only when he was 17 or 18 in A-ball, but he caught me in Double-A and he caught me in the big leagues. So he was an outstanding catcher. And if you know anything about backup catchers, they're usually the most talented behind the plate. They may just not have the big bat. But Eddie was still a good hitter. He just didn't hit all the big home runs like Javi did. But he hit for average, and he was a great receiver. And so that leads me to another conversation I want to have, and that is, when there was a 4-year period there in the 90s where you and Greg Maddux hit it off. And so you became his catcher because obviously everybody can't play every day. I mean, we've seen this for the last couple of years with this organization that we've talked about Markakis and we've talked about Freddie not playing every day. They're getting a little bit older. They need to take a day off, and that just makes sense. It's a long season. You're running a marathon. And so catchers need a day off too because that's a tough position. So it just happened that the day off for Javi was going to be when Greg pitched, and that was Eddie's role to catch Greg. And so I know Greg just because I played with him, and I know he's very cerebral, and the way he pitches is very much the same way. So I just kind of want to know why you guys hit it off so well, and what made him such. So there's two questions. How did you hit it off, and then also, what made him such a great pitcher?
Well, first of all, it was not a problem between him and Javi. Everybody thought it was a problem, but it works great. I think Bobby did a great job having me catching Greg. I'm sorry. I knew when I'm gonna catch, and Javi knew when he's gonna have his off day. That was big. For me, having Greg around me was big. Maddox. I have to stay with him when he didn't pitch. I have to sit with him in the dugout and go through the next game he's gonna pitch. How we're gonna pitch? How we're gonna do this? He was very smart. He was very smart, and have to be on the same page. Something that people don't know that I'm telling people now, especially my minor league catcher, is he gave me the sign right before he throws the pitch, right after he throws the pitch. It was something that he would give me the sign of the next pitch. So every time he pitched, that was his fastball away, fastball inside, cutter, and changeup. And then he do it right here, right there. And nobody knew about it. And guess what curveball was? This is curveball right here.
Not surprising.
Which is he threw like 3 or 4 per game. He got one of the best curveball in the game, but he only threw 4 or 5. He don't need it. But the other team knew that he was giving pitches away, but they never catch it. They never pick it up. So after 2 months, I told him, I said, hey, let me call the game now. Don't give me the sign. So he shook me off twice, the whole game. So I was happy. I said, oh, only 2. And I went, hey, next game, I do it. He go, no. I said, I did good. He go, no, 2 is too much. So it was stuff like that. He was very smart. He knows about the game. We sit together. We go through the hitters. Now they do that. When I was a coach, I tried to tell my catchers to do that with the pitchers set together and have the same game plan. Make sure you don't waste any time calling games. So that's what we did. Like I say, very smart. And why he make him so good, I think he put the ball where he wants it, and he can do. I mean, I don't know if he's. This is what I tell everybody, but it's hard for some of you guys to know that this is home plate. He never throws anything in the middle, and never threw anything in the middle. It was this corner and this corner. From here he goes like this, and like this, and this corner he do this, and he do that. So that was hard for a hitter. That was hard, and he only threw 91 miles per hour, but he knew where he put the ball. He knew where the hitter stands. He know what he's gonna do and say, hey, he's gonna hit a ground ball right now. He's gonna hit a pop out right now. So I don't think I'm gonna see that again. And that's he studied a lot about the game. He always watched the game, and that's what make him Greg Maddux.
Yeah, I think he was a master at reading reactions to different pitches. So that makes the game fluid. So if you're pitching, you don't have to go with a set game plan because if the hitter all of a sudden adjusts to you and you're seeing how he reacts to one of your pitches and you know how that reaction caused the next decision. So that's what it was on, and that's really difficult to do because as a pitcher, sometimes you get caught up in the game just like the hitter does, just like the coach does. But to be able to be that cognizant of what's going on to where you're watching the hitter react to your pitches, that's pretty special. And if it was that easy, there would be a lot of guys doing it.
Yeah. It was time that I was calling fastballs, and he would change it to changeup. And I was be able to catch those. I don't know why, but God gave me the ability to catch those, call fast when he throw change. So he do it all the time. And every time he changed it, they were swinging and miss. And I always said, why you change? Why you throwing changes? He go, I know they were swinging. Okay, whatever.
Well, I want to give you guys a chance to ask some questions. We've got a little bit of time left. So anyway, just so you know, this will be on YouTube. Okay, so this is where this is live, but it's taped live, and then it'll be shown on YouTube, and then also the audio will be on Apple Music and Spotify and those kind of things. So we have a microphone. Jeffrey's got a microphone. Does anybody have a question for Eddie? And then you can hear it live on YouTube. All right over here.
Who are the most promising catchers that the Braves have in the minor leagues right now?
We got two. Last year we had one, but now we got two. We signed the number one draft, Langelier. He's really good, and I think Williams Contreras, the brother of Wilson Contreras, those two guys they're going to be up here, and I hope it's sooner, but I would say 2 years. But they're ready to go. Maybe late next year. That's all depend how they come to spring training. They're getting ready. They want to learn. So last year was just Contreras. Now having two guys is going to be really good. It's going to be a battle between those two. So we see who's going to make it first.
Will they both be in AAA this year?
We don't know yet, but I'm trying to make them both go to the same place. And I think AA is the place. I think Mississippi, they need to go out there and play together and see who's going to do good. Yeah.
Okay. Got a question right here? Okay.
In the landscape of how recent teams have built world championships in the minor leagues, how would you say that our farm system plays a role in that?
We're doing really good, even all the problems we have. Everybody knows that we cannot sign anybody international in the next. Well, I think next year that's when we're going to start. It's been 3 or 4 years that we're not going to sign any more Ronald Acuñas and all those guys because everybody knows what happened. But we're still good. Last year, out of 50 guys that we draft, we signed 48 guys. And I think only 12 came from high school. They're all college kids. So that is going to be very good for us. I think our number one guys are good players. We got kids from all over the places, and they're going to be really good in a couple of years. They're going to be really good. And in the minor leagues, when we play, we got to win games. Now you make those players win in the big leagues. You don't worry about make sure they're winning games and all that stuff. you want them to be a good players, and they represented the Braves not only as a good players, but as a good person and a good citizen too.
All right, right over here.
Hey, Eddie. I'm Bob. This is my son, Bobby. We got a question. What was your most memorable game?
I don't have that many, so I think '99 winning the MVP and the NLCS. I think the game against the Mets. I started playing, but I didn't finish that game. Winning that series for me was the biggest game that I ever played. I always before that one, I always said the game that he don't remember, but my first game in the big league, my first homer, you got the save. John Small threw 8 innings, and then you came and you got the save, and I got my first hit was a homer. I never got that ball, by the way, because I went too far. But
You want my save ball?
so to me that was the biggest game. But now '99 winning the NLCS for me is the biggest game ever.
Yeah, 10 hits, 2 home runs. That series, pretty big right there. Batted 500.
And you know what? The thing is, I never thought about my numbers. All I want to be is the Mets. I'm sorry if there's any Mets fans here, but I just want to beat
There's
the
no
Mets.
Mets fans
I
here.
hope so. You never know. You never know. You never know.
It better not be. No, I'm just teasing.
But I just want to win. I just want to beat them because they were talking too much, and and then at the end of the series, I said, Eddie, you're the MVP. I said, man, I didn't do much. And then I saw my numbers. It was 500. I think it's still the highest batting average as for catchers in the playoffs. So, and all because I want to win.
All right, we got one over here? Yep.
Yeah, with Mac retiring, Cervelli going to free agency, Alex Jackson struggled when he came up to the big leagues last year. What do you see our course of action as far as catching for this next season, considering our top 2 prospects aren't expected to be ready till 2021?
Well, that's not my decisions or not. That's those guys up there. But I'm worried about that. You know what? I like Alex Jackson. I think he's a good catcher. He's not hitting well here, but I think he's gonna hit. 3 years ago, he was one of the best hitters in the Arizona league, and I think he's gonna be okay. But I think we have to look for somebody. That's my opinion. Those kids are not ready. They know. Alex is very smart. I think he's going to be okay. Looking for somebody. He did a great job last year getting Cervelli and McCann and Flowers, and they know what they need to do. But our kids are not ready. I think they're going to be in the big league. I think they're going to be in the All-Star game one day. I think they got the talent to be a really good players in the big league, good catchers, and we see. To me, 2 years, but you never know. I hope they come up earlier.
Yeah, I think what's important for us is that I think we've got plenty of firepower in our lineup when you think about who we have hitting in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth hole. That catching, I think the most important thing is to make sure that they can work with our pitchers. We've got a young pitching staff. We're trying to develop. I don't think we're looking for our catchers to be the 4-hole hitter. So I think that's what we want to make sure we get the right guys, and we can go for somebody that's maybe a little bit more of a guy like Eddie, right?
I would make a lot of money right now.
All right, go ahead.
Do you think you'll coach the Braves anytime soon?
That's not my decision. But you know what? I like what I do. I love what I do. I like the big league coaches that we have right now. You know what? One of the best in the big leagues. And I hope that we keep those guys together. It's going to be tough because we have a lot of talent in our coaching staff. They can be managing any team in the big leagues. I'm talking about Ron Washington, Wall Wise, all those guys. They can be managing everywhere. And the other guys, they can be doing a lot of better thing or good thing in other teams, but we need them here. Being in the big leagues, I think that's my next goal, but I enjoy what I'm doing right now. And most of the things that I do is spend time at home, which is I never did that in 30-some years. So.
All right. Okay.
How you doing, Eddie? So as your whole playing career with the Braves, who was your favorite teammate?
Grandma Michael. You know what? I
Good
play
job,
with
Eddie.
I play with a lot of people, a lot of players, and it's funny because to me, the guy that was still good friends, we talk all the time, is Omar Vizquel. Omar Vizquel. I played 1 year in Cleveland, but before that, I hate Omar Vizquel. We used to play in Venezuela, win a ball, and he played in different team. And every time it was a fight, I was going straight at him. And he would keep saying, "Why you look? I don't like you. I don't like you." But then they traded me to Cleveland in a spring training in 02. And he was the first guy waiting for me in the clubhouse. And he go, "Welcome." All right, and then we became good friends, and we're still good friends. And, I play with Andres Galarraga, Javi Lopez, we're still talking. They're good friends, but I think Omar is always, he always asking about my family, about my friends, about everybody. I think Omar Vizquel is the number one.
Venezuela's a big country, but the players that come from there, I noticed that whether it's the Dominican or Colombia or, Mexico, that all the guys from your country, that have come up. And if not, their parents. Like, you think about, Ronald Acuna and, just different things. So the guys that are in the big leagues now, how many of those guys did you play against their dads? Have you seen? I know from my old teammates. I mean, I think about Dwight Smith and think about Dante Bichette, and guys that are coming up, and Biggio, and of course, there's three of them on the Toronto team.
I played with Ronald Acuna's dad.
Yeah,
and I coached him too. I was his manager, so that makes me feel old. But it's a lot like the Toronto Blue Jays. They got all those guys that we play against each other. They're really good, and it's more common too. In minor league, every time I watch a game in the minor league, that's the kid, that's the son of this guy. Remember when he pitched against you? I met the day before, so I don't know. But it's a lot of minor league players that their dad play in the big leagues or minor leagues.
All right, who else? We got time for one more, okay?
Hi, my name's David. I'm from Clovis, South Carolina. I've got a question that probably a lot of fans is wondering. You may not be able to answer it. But it seems like the last 4 or 5 years or so, the Braves have had so much trouble getting runners in from the scoring position. They could have bases loaded with no outs, 1 out, and it seemed like the hitters step up there and they try to be a hero and knock a home run. What difference does it make to get 1 run in at a time? You get all 4 of them, or you get them all in at one time? I don't see what makes any difference. Thanks.
I'll let you take that.
Well, you know what? It's I always give credit to the pitchers. Even it's hard. It's not easy to step out there and face one of those guys. Now they throw 98 plus. When we play, nobody throw that hard. And I think I always say if you make the right pitch, you're gonna get the hitters out. And that's what they do. That's what they do. Our numbers are not bad with running and scoring position. I think you're watching you look at the numbers in the last couple months, but before that we were really good, and I think it's hard. It's hard in playing 45,000 people. You try to do good. You don't want to walk. You don't want to strike out. So what do you go when you got there? You just want to swing the bat. Hopefully you can hit that little white thing, So, but it's I always give credit to the pitcher. I always believe if you make the right pitch, you're gonna make the hitters out. And it's tough for a hitter. For a hitter, pitcher's right there in your face, and they try to get you out. So it's tough. It's tough. It's numbers in there that you're not doing good with bases loaded, but it's all the good things that you have. That's why we make it always. That's why we won our division, because we have one of the best teams in the big leagues. Playoff is a different time. And I think, like I said earlier, you learn from every game. I think we learn from this playoff. And I think next year we're going to be better. And I'm tired to say that. And I know you guys are tired to hear we get them next year. But I think that's a process. And I think they're learning. And next year we're going to be ready to go. I know that we make some mistake, but that's how you learn. That's how you learn. And you keep that. You learn how to not to do it, and then you're ready to go next year. So we're going to be okay.
Yeah, it's interesting because back when I was pitching, of course, the pitchers, we always want more runs, and the teams that we played on, we weren't scoring 7, 8 runs a game. We were winning 3-2, 2-1, 4-3 because we had the best pitching staff in the big leagues. So we always wanted more runs too. We were like, why can't we get more guys in from second base? Why can't we get more guys on? So I think that's just, I'm a fan now, like you. I mean, even though I work for the Braves, I'm a fan. I watch, I follow. But then I also hear from the alumni. So, I think we always ask those questions, how does this team get better? So I think sometimes it's easy to focus on where we're short. Could we have a better staff? Could we have a better seventh hole hitter? And I think that's just the nature of us being fans. We just want our team to be better, and we look at the places that they can do better. But I do know there's a cultural shift in the game of baseball, so maybe the game that you grew up with is different nowadays. The game that I grew up with is a little different. They don't necessarily think about bunting a runner over. They don't think about hitting runs. They don't think about those kind of things. They think about how do I lift the ball, and I want to either hit it out or I want to be out. So that's something that's just different. I'm not saying it's better, or I'm not saying it's worse. I'm just saying it's different nowadays, and I think as fans, we have to realize that we've gone through a cultural shift in the game of baseball. And so pitching is different. The way they're approaching the hitters are different. The way the hitters are approaching the pitchers are different. So that's just where we are in the game. And so believe me, I hear about it every day from my alumni of why is this and why is that. And so, but like Eddie's, for him to be a coach, he's going to have to adjust and view the game a little differently than he did 10, 15 years ago when he first started coaching. So, well, I just want to thank you guys so much for being here, being a part of our podcast. Again, we appreciate you subscribing, rating, reviewing. You can do that all on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. We appreciate your feedback. If you have listened to the show before, I have a co-host named Ricky Mass with MLB. He's actually on vacation. He said he needed a break from me, but he will be back next week. We're actually in the off season. We're every other week. So during the season starting April, we're every week. But right now, we're every other week. We're going to be going to the winter meetings. But we talk about everything from fantasy camp to the game of baseball to what's going on with alumni and current players. So we'd love to have you be a part of our listening audience. And like I said, this is going to be on YouTube. This will be on Apple Music, and you can get it. I do have some cards up here. I'll stick around. Love to meet you and talk to you a little bit about more about what we're doing. So, but thank you so much. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.